Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. Have you ever wondered why, no matter what diet we follow, which doctor we visit, or what healing method we try, we just don't seem to get better? Why do some people stay sick for years, sometimes even decades, when by now their bodies should have responded to treatment? Is it genetics? Is it just bad luck? Or could it be something deeper, something hidden within our own minds? What if the real reason you're not healing is you? Stay with me, because this video isn't about cliches or yet another list of 10 ways to raise your vibration. This is something different. We're going to talk about shadow work, honest self-inquiry, and a quiet truth that once seen, you can't unsee. Before we dive in, if you're someone who enjoys deep conversations and exploring the layers of life most people avoid, make sure to subscribe to Fractal Wisdom so you never miss the content that truly matters. Now here's something that might sound strange at first, but you've probably felt it in some way. Some people are actually afraid to get well, not on purpose, of course. On the outside, we all say we want to feel better, be pain-free and full of energy. But deep down, there's fear. There's identity tied to illness. There's comfort in the familiar. For some people, being unwell is the only way they ever receive care, love, or even permission to slow down. Illness becomes a role we play without realizing it. As Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Could it be that staying unwell sometimes helps us avoid facing who we are without the struggle? Because once we heal, then what? Who are we if we're not the person who needs help? Will people still care about us? And perhaps the hardest question of all, what if we get better, but still feel empty? So, here's a question for you. Do you think it's possible that deep down, we sometimes hold on to our pain because it feels safer than the unknown? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. That's a heavy burden, and most people don't even realize they're carrying it. So let's bring this down to something real and relatable. Have you ever asked someone, why do you want to get better? Almost always they'll say something like, I just want to feel good. And that sounds fair, right? Who doesn't want to feel better? But let's think about it a little more. Feeling good is not a purpose. It's a temporary state. It comes and goes. If there's no deeper reason behind that desire, no real meaning to hold on to, then the body, and more importantly, the subconscious mind, might not feel truly motivated to change. This is where Carl Jung's idea of the shadow comes in. He believed we all have parts of ourselves that we hide, push down, or try to ignore. These parts are often linked to pain, shame, or experiences that feel too uncomfortable to face. But just because we hide them doesn't mean they go away. Instead, they fester. They show up in different forms, sometimes as anxiety, sometimes as patterns that keep ruining our progress, and sometimes even as physical illness. It's like your own mind is protesting. A quiet inner rebellion, a signal that there's something deeper inside you that's been ignored for far too long. So when you say, I want to heal, your subconscious might be asking, but why? If your identity is wrapped around being unwell, if your illness has become your protector, your routine, or the reason people show you care, then getting better can feel threatening. Healing might feel like letting go of the only version of you that feels safe, and that can be terrifying. Here's something raw and real. Maybe you've been sick, physically, emotionally, or mentally, or so long you wouldn't even know who you are without it. I'm not just talking about visible illness. I'm talking about things like constant fatigue, anxiety that never truly leaves, or that heavy emotional weight you've carried for years. Maybe it's a diagnosis that slowly became your identity, a filter through which you now see your entire life. At first, you fought it. You searched for answers at 2 a.m. You tried diets, yoga, retreats, and supplements with names you couldn't even pronounce. You did everything you could to make it go away. But here sits the question I want you to really think about. If your illness, your pain, or your emotional weight suddenly disappeared, would you know who you are without it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm here to read and connect. You chase healing like it's a finish line, like there's some moment in the future when everything will finally be okay. But then something strange starts to happen. Quietly, almost invisibly, you begin to adapt to being unwell. Your daily routine shifts. Your schedule revolves around your symptoms. Even your relationships start to adjust. Conversations become centered around how you're feeling, what you're trying, what your body is doing. Your body, once a source of joy, movement, and expression, slowly becomes a negotiation, a constant discussion, and without even noticing, the illness that once felt like an intruder begins to settle in. It becomes part of the furniture, just another character in your life story, a label, a home. If that's hitting something deep, take a breath. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're human. This isn't something you're doing on purpose. No one chooses to stay unwell, but the subconscious is clever. It's wired for survival, not happiness. And for some of us, illness becomes the safest way to be seen, heard, or cared for. Think about it. If the only time people slowed down, listened, or gave you love was when you were sick, your mind remembered that. If the only time you were allowed to rest or step back was when you said, "I'm not feeling well," your nervous system learned that as a survival strategy, even if it hurts, even if it's draining the life out of you, because it worked. It got you what you needed: love, rest, care, and permission to stop performing. Carl Jung also spoke about something called the shadow self, the parts of us we reject, suppress, or deny. But here's the thing. The shadow doesn't stay quiet. It leaks. Sometimes it shows up as self-sabotage. You say you want to heal, but you skip the very practices that could help. You miss appointments. You resist changes that deep down you know are good for you. Other times, the shadow leaks through the body. Jung once said, "The body is the unconscious made visible." Let that really sink in. Your fatigue might not be just about your cells. Your migraines might not be just about stress. That tight chest, the constant stomach pain, the tension you carry every day, they could be unspoken parts of you trying to communicate something deeper. So it's my question for you. Do you think your body might be holding on to something your mind hasn't been ready to face? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Maybe your body is trying to express what your soul has been hiding. But here's where it gets even more complicated. A lot of people say they want to get better, but when you ask them why, they don't have a clear answer. Saying, "I just want to feel good," isn't enough. That's not a purpose. It's not a driving force. It doesn't spark your heart. It doesn't give you direction, and it doesn't pull you out of the fog on the hard days. So healing becomes something we chase without knowing where we're going. And when you don't know where you're headed, it's easier to stay where you are, even if where you are is painful. Because pain, at least, is familiar. It's predictable. In a strange way, it feels safe. Now I want to ask you something, and take a moment to really think about it before you answer. If you woke up tomorrow and your illness, your pain, or your emotional weight was completely gone, what would you do with your life, your time, and your energy? Would you write that book you've been thinking about? Start that relationship? Launch that passion project? Or would you feel lost? That question can feel terrifying, because for some people, illness becomes a distraction from purpose. It becomes a valid, understandable reason not to leap, not to take risks, not to step into something uncertain. It's not laziness, it's protection. Your subconscious might be thinking, "If I get well, then I'll be expected to become someone I'm not ready to be." And that one belief, buried deep in the mind, can quietly override every healing protocol out there. So what now? This isn't sut about blaming yourself. It's suts about seeing yourself clearly. It's suts about loving yourself enough to ask the hard but healing question. What is this pain protecting me from? Because once you recognize what it's shielding you from, you can begin to gently release it. You can start to imagine a new version of yourself. Not the sick one, not even just the healed one, but someone with purpose, someone with meaning, someone who wakes up with a reason to live, that excites your soul and signals your subconscious to move toward health, wholeness, and vitality. Healing isn't just about getting rid of symptoms. Real healing is about coming back to yourself fully. It's about your body, your mind, and your spirit, all aligning with a deeper reason to live. When your system senses a powerful why, something shifts, not just emotionally, but biologically. This isn't woo, it's evolution. Science is catching up to what many have always felt. Your biology responds not just to any belief, but to meaningful belief. By now, you may have realized that healing isn't set just physical. It's sets also about identity, direction, and meaning. And that leads to a very important question. If you are not your illness, then who are you? That space between who you were and who you're becoming is where many people get stuck. It feels like standing alone in a hallway, knowing the old door is closed behind you, but not yet able to see what the next door looks like, or if it even exists. That space can be terrifying, because deep down, the human mind craves certainty more than happiness. That's why so many people unconsciously hold on to familiar pain. The mind might say, I want to change, but the nervous system whispers, only if it doesn't feel like death. So, let's talk about identity. Without a shift in who you believe you are, real healing often stalls. When someone says, I just want to feel good, what they usually mean is they haven't yet created a vision strong enough to pull them forward. Something that makes change feel safer than staying stuck. Carl Jung talked about individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming your true self, not the version your parents expected, not the one shaped by trauma or fear, but the real you. The one that comes alive when you begin to integrate both your light and your shadow. Healing isn't just about removing what's wrong. It's about welcoming back the parts of you that had to be hidden just to survive. So maybe the real question isn't, how do I fix myself? Maybe it's, what parts of me have I forgotten? What dreams did you set aside because your symptoms left no room for them? What version of you never got a chance to grow because it didn't fit the role of the sick one? This is where purpose comes in. Not in the flashy, Instagram-worthy kind of way, but in a grounded, soul-deep kind of way. Your subconscious won't let go of an old identity unless it believes there's something meaningful waiting on the other side. And purpose doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to start a nonprofit or write a bestseller. Sometimes, purpose is simply having a reason to get out of bed that feels more powerful than your pain. It could be your art, your curiosity, your love for your children, your desire to explore the world, or maybe, just maybe, it's your wish to feel alive in your own skin again. So let me ask you this. What's one small but meaningful reason you want to heal? Something that matters more than your fear. Share it below. I'd love to hear what lights you up. These aren't just hopes or daydreams. They set signals, calls to your biology. Because when the soul says yes, the body starts to listen.
Yeah.
Sit something gentle you can try. That's not a trick or a hack. Just a shift in perspective. Ask yourself this question every morning. If I were already well, how would I live today? Not when I'm well, not if I heal, but as if, not to fake anything, but to give your nervous system a small taste of what safety feels like outside of suffering. That might look like stepping outside with your tea and letting the sun warm your face for 5 quiet minutes, or finally emailing that person you've been too tired to respond to. Maybe it's doodling, dancing for just 2 minutes, or saying no to something that always drains your energy. Tiny, meaningful steps. Every time you make a choice that aligns with the version of you who is already well, your brain starts rewiring from survival to possibility. And that's where real identity shift begins. Not through affirmations alone, but through action. However small, rooted in meaning. Now, let's be real. Healing isn't linear. We'll wobble. Some days the pain will speak louder than the vision. That's okay. You're not aiming for perfection. You're aiming for progression, for showing up. You're not trying to become someone else. You're slowly returning to who you were before the world taught you to be afraid. True healing isn't just the absence of disease. It sets the presence of purpose. It sets remembering why your life matters and making choices that honor that truth over and over again. So that one day when your body asks, why should I get better? You still finally have an answer that feels true, because I have something to live for. And now, here's something that might challenge everything you've been taught about healing. What if the reason you haven't fully healed isn't because you haven't tried hard enough, but because the very idea of healing has been misunderstood? We're told that healing means going back to the way we were, back to normal. But what if that old version of you, the routines, the habits, the relationships, the beliefs was part of what created the imbalance in the first place? What if the goal isn't to return to who you were before the illness, but to evolve into someone even more whole? So I shall leave you with this question. What if healing isn't about going back, but about becoming someone new? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear how this lands with you. Trying to go back to who you were before the pain is like trying to squeeze your soul into a pair of shoes you outgrew years ago. That's why Carl Jung emphasized transformation over repair. He didn't see illness, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, as something to simply fix. He saw it as a messenger, a symbol, an expression of the parts of you that had been silenced, forgotten, or split off. He wrote, "We don't solve our problems. We grow larger than them." That's the key. Healing isn't about erasing pain. It's about growing into a version of yourself that no longer needs the pain to speak for you. And here's where a lot of wellness advice misses the mark. It only focuses on behavior. Follow this protocol, eat this food, take this supplement, meditate, cold plunge, biohack, detox, repeat. Sure, some of it helps, but it's incomplete. It's incomplete. Because if your subconscious still fears what healing might mean, then no green juice or red light therapy will be enough to make your system let go of the safety it found in being unwell. This is soul-level healing, and soul-level healing doesn't respond to discipline. It responds to meaning. There's a term in psychology, secondary gain. It refers to the unconscious benefits a person gets from staying unwell. It's not manipulation. It's survival. Maybe being sick is the only time people really pay attention to you. Maybe it's the only way you've learned to rest without guilt. Maybe your illness shields you from facing something even more painful, like the fear of intimacy, or a career that leaves you empty, or the loneliness that might come with success. So healing becomes threatening because it means change, and even positive change can feel like death to the ego. That's why people self-sabotage right before breakthroughs. It's why symptoms resurface out of nowhere. Why feeling good can feel strangely uncomfortable. Deep down, something still believes, I'm not ready. So how do you shift that? You stop asking, how do I get rid of this? And start asking, what is this trying to show me? What is this trying to show me? That one question changes everything. It transforms illness from an enemy into a guide, a sacred messenger, a mirror. And if you listen without judgment, you might hear the quiet truth underneath it all. I've been trying to protect you. That's not weakness. That's intelligence. But intelligence without awareness becomes a trap. Your job isn't set to fight your illness. It's set to outgrow the need for it. And that happens when you begin to ask deeper questions. Who are you becoming? What does wholeness look like for you? Where are you still betraying yourself in the name of safety? What truth are you finally ready to stop avoiding? Because when you start living in alignment with truth, something inside you shifts, not instantly, not magically, but deeply. The body softens, the mind quiets, the spirit remembers, and healing becomes less about fixing symptoms and more about reclaiming your sovereignty. That's a word we don't hear enough in wellness. Sovereignty. It means belonging to yourself. It means you stop giving your power away to doctors, gurus, or external outcomes. It means you treat your body like a wise old friend. You see your pain not as a problem, but as a map. You start building a life that's so aligned, whole, so nourishing, so honest, that illness no longer fits the story. Not because it's magically cured, but because it's no longer needed. This is your invitation, not just to heal, but to evolve. To create a new way of living that doesn't require suffering to slow you down or force you inward. To become someone who lives in deep integrity with who they truly are, even if that means letting go of what once felt safe. You don't have to be perfect to heal. You just have to be honest. And when you begin to live from that place, even quietly, even slowly, healing doesn't just become possible. It becomes inevitable. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you. If something in these words echoed a truth you've been afraid to name, don't keep it locked inside. Share it in the comments. I want to hear from you. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, please share this with them. And if you're walking this path of self-discovery and inner work, hit that subscribe button. We're building something real here for people who are done chasing surface solutions and ready to meet the deeper truth. Your story is instead over. It's just beginning.